American Top 40.
We're heading into the second hour of our musical travelogue, American Top 40's World Tour. And next is a band from the great American Northwest. And they were ready for the road the minute they formed, thanks to their leaders, sisters Ann and Nancy Wilson. Ann says she's been on the move ever since she was a baby in San Diego.
Yeah, I was born there. Our father was in the Marine Corps, and so we lived everywhere. We come from no one place. I was born in San Diego. Nancy was born in San Francisco. And we lived in places like Taiwan and Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and Camp Pendleton, all of the bases, you know. But we ended up in Seattle because my father was ordered there to be the Marine Corps recruiter for the Northwest area, and they liked it so much they just stayed. He retired, and then he became a teacher. So anyway, that's why we ended up there.
I'm Shadoe Stevens. This is American Top 40's Worldwide Year-End Special. 1991 was an eventful year for this next band. They released their second live album of their career, an album of rockers, and their lead singer Ann Wilson adopted a baby girl. Their hit at number 98 came from the very beginning of our survey period. It's called Stranded. This is Heart. AT20 Music. From our studio desk, Ann and Nancy Wilson and the rest of Heart are back in the studio. They've been laying down tracks, as they say in the biz, at Bad Animals in Seattle. That's a new state-of-the-art operation with everything from digital tapeless computer recording to workout rooms, all proudly owned and run by the Wilsons. In a related story, Ann and Nancy Wilson, who used to cover Led Zeppelin songs in the early days of Heart, are now working with Led Zeppelin bass player John Paul Jones on recording of a live acoustic album. Taping of the Jones-produced project will take place at 5 upcoming shows at the Backstage Club in their hometown of Seattle. When the news hit, the 5 shows sold out in about 8 minutes. Ann Wilson says fans can expect unplugged and unwrapped versions of Heart hits like These Dreams and All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You, plus new songs like Cherry Blossom Road. That's this week's edition of AT20 Music News.
Casey's Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the latest hit by a veteran band led by two sisters from Seattle who got their big break when the opening act for Rod Stewart dropped out of a show because of laryngitis. It was back in 1975 that the band called Heart moved from Seattle to Vancouver in the hope of making it on the Canadian club circuit, and they did quite well. With Ann Wilson on lead vocals and Nancy Wilson on lead guitar, the band developed a big following in the clubs of Vancouver. And that led to bookings in other Canadian cities, including an extended stay in Montreal, where they spent a month playing the many clubs near McGill University. One day during Heart's stay in Montreal, Rod Stewart came to town. He was touring North America with a new rock band as his opening act, a band that played for half an hour before his show. But when Rod's tour got to Montreal, the lead singer of his opening act came down with a devastating case of laryngitis. He would open his mouth and nothing would come out. No one else in the band could sing, so they told Rod's manager they just couldn't go on. The manager had two simple choices: use no opening act at all, or use a local band. He called a club owner he knew and he asked, "Who's hot?" And the owner told him the hottest club band in Montreal was a rock band fronted by two women from Seattle, the band Heart. Rod's manager thought a rock band fronted by women sounded like a cute novelty. So he called the club where Heart was playing and asked if they could do a really short set. Ann and Nancy Wilson jumped at the chance, and when they got on stage with their band, they blew the audience away. They did so well, the original opening act was sent home. And Heart got to open for Rod Stewart all across Canada. With all that exposure, they built a big reputation, and that led to a recording contract. These days, 18 top 40 hits later, when Heart goes on the road, they're the main attraction. And this week on Casey's Top 40, they have our biggest mover.
Coming up, an American Top 20 Extra by Heart, a group led by two sisters who moved heaven and earth to write a song with legendary composer Burt Bacharach.
Counting down the hits with Casey Kasem. Counting down the hits with Casey Kasem.
For Casey Kasem, I'm Joe Cipriano. Now we're up to an American Top 20 Extra by Heart, a group led by two sisters who moved heaven and earth to write a song with legendary composer Burt Bacharach. Ann and Nancy Wilson say that one of the songs that impressed them most in the past year was the collaboration between pop legend Burt Bacharach and Elvis Costello called God Give Me Strength. In fact, they were so dazzled by the song, they included it in their last tour. But the Wilson sisters wanted to do more than just sing a Burt Bacharach song. They wanted to write one with him. And so they pulled in every favor they could to set up a meeting with him. Well, Burt finally agreed, though Ann says she's almost positive he'd never heard her sing before. Well, for the meeting, the Wilson sisters flew to Los Angeles, where they met Burt in the music room at his house, a room that has nothing in it but a piano. Burt told Ann he had some lyrics he was working on for a song called Having It All. He asked her to look at them and try to sing them, even though there was no melody for them at all. Well, that's like asking someone to drive someplace they've never been without giving them a map. But after reading through the lyrics, Ann sat down at the piano and started to improvise. She says she looked over at Burt and thought, quote, I could see his wheels moving like, yeah, she can sing. Yeah, all right. I think I can do this. It was a really cool moment, unquote. Well, the result of that meeting is a new song that the Wilsons will be singing on tour this summer. A new song written by Burt Bacharach, Ann, and Nancy Wilson. Now, as an American Top 20 Extra, here are the Wilsons as part of Heart, with a #1 smash from 1986, These Dreams.
American Top 20.
AT20 originates in Hollywood, California. Well, now we're up to an American Top 20 Extra by Heart, a band led by two women, one of whom recently chose a radical procedure to lose weight. At the heart of Heart are sisters Ann and Nancy Wilson. They share certain similarities like their love of music. But physically, the two are different. Ann has dark hair, while Nancy's a blonde. And Ann is heavy, while Nancy is thin. Ann says she's battled to keep her weight under control all her life. Over the years, it's gotten so bad that she's taken to wearing all black to look thinner. On stage and in videos, she often stood in the back so that she's less visible. She says her weight became such a problem that over the years, quote, everyone conspired to put a blanket over me, unquote. Well, now she's doing something about it. Ann Wilson recently had an adjustable gastric band put on her stomach. The band restricts the size of the stomach, and therefore it restricts the amount of food she can eat. It's a serious procedure. In fact, doctors will only consider it for people who are at least 100 pounds overweight. Ann worked with her physician to find a method that was best for her, and this one seems to have done it. So far, she's lost 60 pounds and says she looks forward to losing 40 pounds more. She says, I'm not looking to win any glamour contests. What I really want is to be healthy. That's our update on Ann Wilson and her fight to lose weight. Now, with an American Top 20 Extra, here are Ann and Nancy Wilson and Heart with a hit from 1985, What About Love?
American Top 20.
Well, now we're up to an American Top 20 Extra by Heart, a band whose lead singer is one of several stars who once stuttered until they learned to sing. According to the Stuttering Foundation of America, the number of famous names who have stuttered as children is long and impressive. It includes one of the most famous orators of the 20th century, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. On the list as well are modern-day stars like Julia Roberts, Bruce Willis, Tiger Woods, Carly Simon, and Ann Wilson of Heart. Ann says she started stuttering when she began school. Quote, I was very shy, and stuttering made me even more shy. I was afraid to say anything. I completely withdrew into myself. Then, when she was 8 years old, both Ann and her younger sister, Nancy, came down with mononucleosis. They had to stay home for weeks, and to entertain themselves, they started singing together. Ann says, I discovered that when I sang, my stutter went away. And when my stutter went away, my confidence returned. I went back to school a new person. Now, with an extra, here's Heart with a hit from 1985, What About Love? From 1985, Heart with an AT20 Extra, What About Love? I'm Casey Kasem. Now, on with the survey.